Welcome to our channel, the place where we dissect and discuss all things fashion. Today we're going to be doing a Luxe and Style Icon series spotlight on none other than Miss Stella Tennant. So grab your black coffee and let's get into it. For our opening montage, we will start with a slow pan shot of Stella walking the runway for Chanel Haute Couture Spring-Summer 1998. This is followed by close-ups of some of her most iconic looks, like her final appearance for Alexander McQueen and a purple gown at Miu Miu. Interspersed between these shots are clips of interviews with Stella where she speaks about her life and work. We'll hear her say, "I like being an aristocrat, but then I'm really not posh." And finally, "I think because I look like a bit of a princess, people think I am one. I can be really naughty." This is all set against a rock soundtrack with heavy electric guitar riffs to give it a more grungy feel. In our videos, we try to show how the icons of today got to where they are. So we're going to do just that for Stella. We'll begin with her aristocratic beginnings. She was born Stella May Blossom Tennant on December 17, 1969 in Edinburgh, Scotland, to aristocrat parents. Her father was a lord and the grandson of the Duke and Duchess of Devonshire, who were prominent members of English high society. Her mother was the daughter of a viscountess. So as you can imagine, Stella grew up surrounded by old money and privilege. She spent much of her childhood at her family home, a remote 42-room mansion called Aynhoe Park in rural Scotland. There were no telephones or televisions at this house, and Stella was primarily raised by nannies. Despite this privileged upbringing, Stella was tomboyish and had a strong will. When Stella was 14, her parents divorced. Her father took his own life a few months later, and she moved with her mother to London. While living there, she attended boarding school, then the prestigious University of Dundee to study art history. Stella has said that she found high school stifling. At age 16, she began to express herself through her appearance, adopting a punk-inspired androgynous style. This is what caught the eye of photographers and set her on the path to modeling. The next part of the video will focus on Stella's rise to fame. In the early 90s, Stella was still studying at university when she was accidentally scouted by a model scout named Kevin Ryan. He happened to be visiting Dundee to see a friend play music. He spotted Stella from across the street and asked his friend to introduce them. Stella didn't know anything about modeling and had no intention of starting a career in the field, so she told the scout to get lost. However, he persisted and eventually convinced her to take some Polaroids, which he brought back to New York for women management. They signed her immediately. It wasn't long before Stella was flown to New York City for a test shoot with Arthur Elgort. The images were beautiful, and Stella soon signed with Elite. She returned to Scotland to finish university, but continued to do photo shoots around Europe. All the while, Stella was still adamant that modeling was just a hobby. It wasn't until she met photographer Stephen Meisel that everything changed. In 1994, Meisel photographed Stella for the cover of British Vogue, and subsequently for a 16-page editorial. These images were unlike anything seen before. In Vogue Italia that October, Meisel included 11 of those images in a 22-page spread with the headline, "New Models, New Faces." This was the issue that put Stella firmly on the map. Suddenly, every designer wanted her, but no one had quite figured out how to handle such a raw, aristocratic-looking waif yet. That would come later when Karl Lagerfeld discovered her. Lagerfeld would go on to use Stella in over 150 shows and advertising campaigns for Chanel during the 1990s alone. This is why many people consider her to be one of Chanel's muses. In fact, she was Karl's idea of the modern aristocrat. Lagerfeld was fond of saying, "She's an English rose. You don't have to make anything of her. It's already there. She's already made." Another designer who appreciated Stella's natural look was John Galliano. He chose her to open his first haute couture show for Christian Dior in 1997. This moment was considered shocking at the time since Stella appeared on the runway in a power suit without any makeup. The audience had expected supermodel Naomi Campbell. So when Stella came out, there was dead silence. Then thunderous applause. We'll talk more about Stella on the runway later, but for now, let's focus on her impact in print. Some of Stella's first big campaigns were for Donna Karan and DKNY. These ads helped solidify her status as a top model and showed off her ability to connect with designers. What follows is a rapid-fire sequence of Stella in several iconic campaigns throughout the years. Starting with Calvin Klein, obsession for the modern man. Here she poses shirtless and smoldering with a pair of jeans looped around her hips. Next, Burberry, Brit for men and women. We'll see Stella share a cigarette and a leather jacket with a hunky model in a grunge-inspired parking lot. From there, we move on to Hermes, where Stella exudes elegance while holding a horse in a field. Next, Prada with a youthful vibe. Stella sits and lounges around various parts of a train station. Lastly, we'll end with another iconic campaign, Mugler, where Stella looks regal as she descends down a flight of stairs. These ads all highlight different aspects of Stella's appeal. Although she never conformed to the hyper-glam, almost airbrushed look that was popular at the time, she was always stunning to look at, even in a non-sexy way. She was able to command attention while never upstaging the clothes. Her advertisements helped shift the industry's ideal of beauty away from the Cindy Crawford mold and opened the door for waifish models like Kate Moss to thrive. At this point, Stella was so successful that she could easily have rested on her laurels and done the same thing over and over again. But that wasn't her style. Stella Tennant was a true fashion rebel. She refused to adhere to the usual model rules and expectations. She didn't want to be known for her sex appeal, and she certainly was not interested in selling cheap perfume. In fact, Stella once pulled out of a huge campaign at the last minute after she learned that the product was being marketed towards teenagers. Stella was also wary of compromising her artistic integrity by posing nude. She famously turned down an offer to pose for Playboy magazine, saying, "My body is my thing, and I'm not letting anyone own it." By the mid-90s, Stella's face was plastered everywhere. But behind the scenes, she was craving a simpler life. She married French photographer David Lasnet in 1999, and the couple retreated to a 17th-century farmhouse in the Scottish countryside. There, they raised their 4 children. Stella tried her best to live a normal life, but it was hard when she was still in demand for fashion shows and editorials. To our modern eyes, it's clear that Stella had a profound impact on fashion. She was one of the original cool girls, effortlessly stylish and utterly unique. To quote actress Tilda Swinton, Stella was never less than completely real. Stella was a rare, beautiful creature, by far the only one of her kind. She blazed a trail for us all and never gave a damn for the consequences, always her own fierce, authentic self. Never pushed, never plugged, never grossed out. So now we'll move on to our infamous runway reign. This will begin with Stella walking for Chanel, then flash back to her debut for Alexander McQueen, ending with her final appearance for him. Other designers featured include Versace, Valentino, and Miu Miu. The key word here is cool. Stella is always statuesque, even when she's in motion. She carries herself with an air of quiet confidence that makes her truly captivating to watch. Our next segment will focus on Stella as campaign queen. This will follow a similar structure to the runway section, beginning with a more recent campaign for Versace and flashing back to the ones we already looked at earlier. We'll include newer brands like Bottega Veneta and Tod's alongside those we've already covered. When watching these, we'll notice a common thread in terms of the styling. Stella is usually the only person in the ad. Sometimes she interacts with a prop or another model, but rarely does she make direct eye contact with the camera. This further emphasizes her cool, aloof demeanor. Lastly, we'll move on to an unknown fact about Stella. While researching this video, we found out that Stella had a passion for sculpture and art that ran deep. She graduated from university with a degree in art history and frequently mentioned that this meant more to her than modeling ever did. As proof of this, we've included a few photographs of sculptures she created that resemble ancient Greek marble statues. This brings us to the end of our Luxe and Style Icon series spotlight on Stella Tennant. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video and like and comment to let us know which icon should we cover next.